Hi, Lauren. Yeah, see, it's crazy. I get over here, 12 people immediately. I was saying I was trying to do this over on my professional page, but no one sees it over there. I think that's an algorithm thing. I think Facebook is messing with me. I'm getting my coffee together. You guys got your coffee? You ready for this? I'm sleepy today. Hi, Araceli. Hello, my love. Hi, Katie. Getting my coffee made. Hi, Kat. Happy New Year to you. How are you guys? Yay. Hi, Suze. Yeah, it sucks. So I'm really trying to shift more of my content over to my professional page. But when I go live over there, nothing. I was on for 5 minutes and I got one person. Hi, Lauren. Thank you. And as soon as I came over here, it was 12. They just show so much more from personal pages. It really sucks. Happy New Year to you. So let me just ask my first question while we're populating the group here. Do you set New Year's resolutions? Give me a yes or a no. I'd love to know. Hey, we got 10. How y'all doing? Santa finally gets a break. You guys, Kat Ellen is actually Mrs. Claus. It's real. I've met her husband and he is in fact Santa. It's a thing. Katie says kind of she sets New Year's resolutions. Yes-ish. Okay, cool. So for my yes-ish kind of people, what does that mean? Oh, theme words. Nice. Yeah, my theme word for 2017, my theme words are compounding interest. That's my motto. Intentions. Yeah, good. I do my birthday too, and it's actually cool because my birthday's in May, so it's like a good little almost midway review point. So I do set birthday resolutions. Ooh, battle plan. Yeah, I like that. Hi, Jen. All right, coffee is almost here. Then we shall sit down and we shall do some things. Cinnamon. Almond milk. Ah, used to be too intense about it. Yeah, I feel that for sure. You guys want to hear the beautiful first world problem that I have right now? I've had people over every day for the past few days to visit, and they've all brought food, and now I have so many tasty leftovers that I can't decide what to eat first. It's a really rough problem for me. Try not to leave all my lights on. Okay, I'm coming to sit. Yes, goals. Okay, so let's talk. So first of all, let me show you my ridiculous stack of planners and goal-setting tools. Are you guys ready to see? That I left out from yesterday. That is the stack of planners and goal-setting tools that I use in my life. And I spent time with all of them yesterday. I'm ridiculous. I'm like a planning addict. I do acknowledge that that is crazy. Okay, let's see if I can get myself set up here. Creative tripoding. Let's see. If I put this thing next to this thing, and then I put this thing, will it slide? Will it stay? It stays. Okay. Hi. And then this guy can be with us. Puppy. Okay. So let me grab some of these and I'll tell you about what I like about all the different ones and why I use them. Hi, Ryan. Okay, so can you guys hear me? Hi, baby. Lay down. I just set up my camera in such a way that the mic is downward, so I want to make sure you can hear me. Okay, I see likes. I think that means you can hear me. Does everybody have a pen and a paper? We might want to write stuff down. Who knows? I might say something smart. Hey there, Happy New Year. All right, cool. So I think that, you know, there's a big movement of like New Year, same me, fuck changing, fuck your resolutions, you're just going to quit them in the first 2 weeks of the year, all that, right? Have you guys seen all those memes? Like, first there's the excited memes where everyone's like, new year, new me, 2017 gonna crush it. And then there's all the backlash memes that are like, I'm gonna still be the same bitch. And I think that the reason that that happens is because frequently New Year's resolutions are really like a big oppressive to-do list. Like the biggest, scariest, most oppressive to-do list of things you've been putting off or avoiding doing for a long time, frequently with no plan behind them, right? And we all know that a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? So then they're this like kind of unattainable wish list of things you know you're not really gonna do anyway. Does that sound somewhat familiar? Right? Like it's a huge weight loss goal with no actual plan, right? Maybe a gym membership, but not a plan. Or it's like a huge financial goal with no plan. It's just a thing on a list, usually that's like comprised of like 20 mini goals, but we never break down the mini goals, and then we feel like failures. Happy New Year, Nikki. So I think the traditional way of setting resolutions is part of why people are like, they don't work. Well, yeah, they don't work because the method is flawed. Does that make sense? So the way that I prefer to think about things is that I have So I have themes for the year. I have priorities for the year. And I think that's the biggest thing, is setting the priorities for the year. What are the most important things I can do to move this year of my life in a direction that will bring progress toward my goals? Does that make sense? So what I set is kind of New Year's priorities. In 2017, what are the priorities for me in this year? I have some health priorities. I have some financial priorities. I have some creative priorities. I have some business priorities. And I have some personal relationship priorities. So already there, they have categories and roles included in them. Yeah, that makes sense. So from those priorities, I get my goals. So one of my financial priorities is that in 2016, I took on a few priorities and goals that required me accruing a lot of debt. That was a plan, right? It was scary because I don't enjoy using credit, but I had some plans that I wanted to accomplish where I consciously opened credit cards and maxed out those credit cards in order to accomplish a goal, with a financial plan for how I was going to pay that back. And then some life things happened, and I haven't made as much progress on paying that back as I would like to. So one of my personal priorities for 2017 is to generate enough income from my businesses to rapidly pay down the purposeful debt that I accrued in 2016 and close the chapter on those projects. Because in my mind, those projects are not completed until the debt that I took on to complete those projects is paid off. So that's a lingering thing for me. That's a project that's carried from 2016 into 2017 with a financial repercussion. I don't like that shit. I need to get that paid off. That's a financial priority. So once I have that priority, I need a plan. And that feeds into my business goals. It gives me a sales target to hit. I need to make this much. Here's how I want to do it in order to pay back this money to myself from that project. You with me? That makes sense? So from there, I start to see some shape and structure for my year. I know what my priority is. I know how I want to accomplish that. And then I need to set a series of steps for myself that will help me to achieve that goal. And because with financial priorities, I always try to go above and beyond. My goal is to pay back the debt, and then I have a certain number that I want to put in savings by the 6-month mark of the year. Because I always like this or something better. So do you see how I kind of went with that? First, I set the priority. This is an emotional priority. Carrying this debt makes me anxious. I don't like being anxious. Carrying over a project from one year to the next year makes me anxious. I don't like that. Priority is to get it paid. If the priority is to get it paid, what's the way I'm going to do it? I'm going to do it through my business. If I'm going to do it through my business, what's the way I'm going to do that? I'm going to sell a certain number of products. If the goal is to sell a certain number of products, I know what I then need to do with my product offerings, my marketing, my sales, and I set those dates in my calendar and I start to lay out the plan for how I'm going to make those things happen. Does that make sense? Y'all with me? I have to press a button. There's a long comment here. I want to see it. Nikki says, I've never been a resolution setter, but every year I set forth goals to strive for. Totally putting them into categories helps. As well, I have found that realizing that some of those goals may not be ready yet after some prep is required to get there. Deadlines are also great. Nikki brings up a great point, which is that sometimes you set a goal and you may not be ready yet. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So first, we talked about setting priorities first. The reason I also like priorities is because priorities feel emotional. Resolutions feel instructive, right? You should do this, you have to do this, you need to do that. Priorities are emotional and they're personal. And you have much better success at achieving things when they start from a personal and emotional place. Your why, right? Why do you want to do that? I want to do that because I feel better when this happens. I want to do that because it makes me happy. I want to do that because it's a way that I can take care of my family, right? When you have a personal why, it makes it easier to prioritize. In terms of your whys, setting your whys, why you want to do something, I feel like it's really important to note the difference between toward motivation and away from motivation. Have you guys heard that phrase before, towards motivation and away from motivation? I hate the comment delay. I'm going to wait a second. Have you heard that phrase before? Towards motivation, away from motivation. All right, I see a couple likes, so I think people have heard it. I'll say what it is just in case. So a towards motivation is, hi Beth, no, haven't heard it. Okay, great. So towards motivation is toward a positive outcome, right? So you can say something like, I want to reclaim my health because it's really important to me to feel better in my body, and I would like to be able to run around and chase after my kids or my grandkids, right? That's a towards motivation. It's towards a positive outcome. away from motivation, exactly as you might think, is moving away from a negative outcome. Like, I want to lose weight because I am disgusted with myself. That's a negative motivation. Scientifically proven, people are more likely to achieve goals with a towards motivation than an away from motivation. Negative motivations don't stick. Negative motivation can be very powerful as a little jump start of momentum. Using that little jump start of momentum to create a toward motivation and to set a plan in action to get you moving toward the toward motivation can work, right? Anger, outrage. Sometimes there is a negative motivation for something. You see a situation, it outrages you. You decide your toward motivation is to make sure that that never happens again. You make a plan for how you're going to get involved and you set forth on a path to get involved. That's using your away from motivation to create a toward motivation in your life. You with me? Comment, delay. Yes, I see some likes. You're with me. So, there's a few different reasons that negative motivations don't work long term, and we can get into those. But I mean, I think we all know that in general, the more negative your outlook, the more pessimistic you feel about things, the less you feel like success is even possible. It's harder to notice positive milestones. When you don't notice positive milestones, you don't feel successful. When you don't feel successful, you feel like there's no point in continuing. When you don't feel like there's a point in continuing, you quit. Then it's February, you haven't lost any weight, your gym membership is collecting dust, and here we are again next year. Haha. So it's okay if you feel right now in this moment like you have a goal or a priority that is coming from a place of like, I cannot deal with this situation in my life another single second. I have to get out of this. This sucks. Use that to create a powerful, positive why that you are going to change it. I need to move toward a life that feels more like this because this will feel better. And then you go in the direction of the light, right? Find your light. Now, we've talked about intention setting versus resolution setting. You're setting an intention or a series of, not intentions, but what was the word that I was using before? Priorities. That's the word. You're setting priorities for your year. Beneath those priorities naturally comes some goals, right? Goals are more of if it is a priority to feel healthier, then it may be a priority that I develop a daily movement habit. It may be a priority for me that I make some dietary adjustments, right? These are my priorities. From those goals, you can make steps of how you're going to do that. I'm going to sign up for Daily Burn. I'm going to do meal prepping. I'm going to visit a nutritionist and get a meal plan, right? All of those things that you can do that are then steps underneath the priority. Come from an emotional place. Making a plan. From that, I go to my calendar. Is this something I'm going to do in the first quarter of the year, the second quarter of the year, the third quarter of the year, or the fourth quarter of the year? So Nikki said sometimes it's not time. Boom, that's true. I have some priorities for this year that I know I'm not going to touch for 6 months. But the fact that I have them in my planner for later means that when I hit the 6-month mark of this year and I do my year review, which I do quarterly, I look back at what I started at the beginning of the year and see if I'm on track, if I want to keep going with what I'm doing, if things need adjustment, if things are finished, all of those things. Then I can say, oh yeah, at the beginning of the year, I noted that this was a priority, but I wasn't ready to touch it yet. Am I in a better position to address those things in the second half of the year? Yeah? Does that make sense? So we have our priorities. We have the goals beneath those priorities. We have the steps within those goals. And then we start setting a timetable for ourselves and applying them to our calendar. If you don't have dates in there of when you're going to start touching stuff, they're gone within a week. You can't remember stuff that you said you were going to do in 6 months. You just can't remember. I can't remember. Priorities change, life happens, things are different. You need to have that. First of all, you need to have it locked in so you remember. But second of all, it's good to have it locked in and acknowledge that you don't have to do it right away. You want to do it, you see it on the horizon, but you're not ready for it yet, and that's okay. You're making a plan you can grow into, right? It's like making yourself a dress that's a size too big so you can grow into it. Yes? You with me? Fantastic question. Deliverables. So how do you make a quarterly goal on something vague like increased flexibility and balance when you're unsure, you don't know how long it'll take? I have goals, but they seem so far off. That's a great question. So if your goal feels kind of nebulous, like I want to improve my flexibility and balance, there's a good and a bad to that. The good part is if the goal truly is you want to improve, right? Improvement means daily, steady, forward motion. That's an easy goal because really what you're saying there is, I need a daily flexibility and balance practice, right? Or 3 times a week or 4 times a week. So then we're going to talk about habits in a second. You make the habit the goal and you trust that the outcome will be the thing that you stated at the beginning. You can track, did I make flexibility and balance practice a priority? You can track, did I practice splits every time I practiced? That's something you can track. And then you can have some trust that anything that you're practicing every day, you're going to improve in. Does that make sense? How flexible? We don't know. How much balance? We're not sure, right? Because you can't compare that to anyone else, really. You can only compare it to where you started from, and only you have a visual in your mind of where you'd like to get to. And for your body, that may take more time or less time, because what you're really asking yourself is, how long will it take me to adapt to this practice? That's a lot of pressure. You don't know. What you can commit to is creating the practice, cultivating the habit, and trusting that the progress will come from the work. Does that make sense? You with me? Good. I'm glad that makes sense. So now we're into habits. So we've set our priorities. Okay, hold on. I got a question. Okay, hold on. Wait, too many things. So, wait, let me address Beth's thing. Lists is a rough term. Let me show you my list. It looks like this. I am a creative person. I can't say when I sit down that what I see comes in the form of lists, right? I start with like a vision board and meditation. I'm real free flow with the vision. Then I do a map, right? That feels better to me than a list. I start 2017 and I just start shooting off what's important, what's important, what's important. Then from what's important, that's how I find my priorities. Is the question, do you have to sit down and write it? Yeah. Like you do. There's no way around it. It's like taxes. I've come to enjoy it, but setting aside a little bit of time to focus on yourself and pour some work and effort into organizing what you want and how you're going to do it on paper in your own handwriting, you just got to do it. You're not going to be as successful without it. That's my personal belief. Maybe there are exceptions to that rule. But it's about attention and focus and believing that you deserve that attention and focus. And that if you're not going to do it, no one is. There's not a life secretary who's going to come in and organize your priorities for you. You have to reflect on you. You have to set goals for you. You have to make a vision for you. And if you need to do it with markers and stickers and poster board and collage, by all means, do it that way. But at a certain point, it needs to be written. It needs to go into a calendar. It needs to have steps, deliverables, timetables. It needs those things, right? It doesn't work without it. So say, for instance, you work at a job and they just hand you a pile of work and walk away. You're going to be so frustrated. You're going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. What are the priorities of this pile of work? What needs to get done first? In what order? Are there due dates on these things? And then someone comes back and says, why didn't you finish that thing? And you're like, no one told me when it was due. That's what you're doing for yourself. If you just give yourself this oppressive list of things that at some point you'd like, with no focus, no direction, no timetable, no deliverables, you're being an unfair boss to yourself. Does that make sense? This makes it easier. It makes it more manageable. It makes it more realistic, and it makes it more likely that you will succeed. Cool. So, habits. So I showed you my crazy mind map. This is where priorities live. From the priorities, right? Jen, that's true, right? Sometimes we'll be really organized and focused for other people, but we won't give ourselves that same love. If that's what's going on, you may have a worth and deserving issue going on in there, and it may need to be a priority to figure out why you don't believe that you are worthy of setting intention and focus towards your own life. Boom. Hey, I heard this thing, or I read this thing yesterday, because I'm really, I'm doing a lot of work with myself around money. And I read this thing about saving that said that one of the reasons that, like, we all know we should save, but one of the reasons that people are bad at saving is that they always feel like they can't afford it. I just did a big writing about feeling like you can't afford things. I'd love for you guys to check that out. But the thing that I read was a little bit of everything you earn, you should pay yourself first before you give that money to anyone else, to your landlord, to the grocery store, to motherfucking Kate Spade shoes. You pay yourself first because you worked for that money. And the way that you pay yourself first is by putting things into high yield savings, because you're going to want that money later. And putting it that way, especially as a freelance person, you know, you're working, you earn money, and you feel like a middleman, right? You're just sending that money out. The philosophy that savings is paying yourself first really hit me. I was like, wow, that's so deep. Pay myself first. A little bit of everything I earn stays with me forever and is mine to keep. I deserve that because I worked for that. That really reframed how I thought about saving. And I think it's the same thing with setting your intentions, right? A little bit of all of my focus and all of my organizational prowess and all of my intellectual power goes to me first, goes to planning my success first. Before I give that focus and intention to another single person, it goes to me first. Does that help? Right? I love it too. Oh man, that totally rocked my world. I always try to put 10% of every paycheck that I get, no matter what it's for, right? Somebody gives me $50, I put $5 in my savings. I always try to put 10%. I started that a couple years ago. But I have my savings account connected to my checking account, and I'll just put that money back when I need it. Girl, don't say that. Once you say that, then you're accepting it as a reality. You and money don't suck. You might need to re-examine some of your habits. So, yeah, like I'll move my money into savings and then let it go back to my checking in this really free-form way. I am, yes, the church of you. I love it. So one of my big goals is that 10% that I put away, I'm putting in a separate savings account that's not attached to my debit card, so I actually don't see it and can't touch it. But separate. Yeah, like tithing, right? The church of you. Couple bucks goes to me first. I worked for that money and I'm keeping it. Come here, baby boy. Come on up. He doesn't have a job. So, finally to habits. Before I jump into talking about habits, Jen, did you have a habits question? Come here, baby. Come on up. Up. Come on up. Up, baby boy. Up. All right, don't come up. Jen, habits question. Sorry about the comments delay, you guys. I hate it when I ask a question, I have to wait. How do you break bad habits that are intermixed with good ones? Ooh. I would love a more specific example of that. So while you give me one, I'm going to talk for a second about where I feel like habits fit and how habits are my actual resolutions. So, hi, Amy. So we talked about setting our priorities, right? Instead of our resolutions, we set our priorities for the year. Beneath those priorities comes our goals, and beneath those goals comes steps for how we're going to meet them. Oh, Jen, that makes sense. Okay, cool. We're going to talk about that in a second. So the next thing that I identify are what I consider major keys. I talk about major keys plus and major keys minus, much like toward motivation and away from motivation. My major keys are critical points, things that if I could accomplish would change everything, right? So one of mine is time management. My major key plus, one thing that if I could do, be, become, add to my life, would make all of my other goals and resolutions easier to fulfill or more likely to happen. Major key minus, what's one thing that I could remove from my life that if removed would make all of my goals and resolutions easier to achieve. So my major key plus is time management. If I can be more rigorous and on top of my time management skills, it will make it easier for me to reach all of the other priorities I've set for myself. My major key minus is resistance based in personal doubt. If I could remove resistance based in doubt, right? And that is a really specific thing I know I struggle with, where I start avoiding doing things where I don't feel like I'll be successful or I'm scared of them. I put them off. I procrastinate on them. I don't stay on top of my priorities for them enough. If I could remove that pattern, which for me I think is about recognizing when I'm feeling doubt and addressing the doubt so that I can remove the resistance, that would also make it a lot easier for me to stay on top of my time management and therefore to reach my priorities. Right? Jen, we can have a talk about that. That's a separate one. So once I've identified my major keys, I set 12 habits, and I'll tell you why 12 in a second, that would support those major keys, and therefore would make it easier for me to reach all of my other goals. So Jen's case, I do my laundry, but I don't put my clothes away. That to me is a system situation. I think it's a lot easier to lock things in when you have a system for how they're done and you never vary from the system. I think that creative people rebel against routines, but we thrive in routines. We need them to make our lives more spacious for our creativity. One of the ways that I thwart my productivity and that I procrastinate is that I keep my desk messy, right? I'll just walk in and throw stuff on my desk and not organize it right away. Then later, when I have to do work related to something that I'm experiencing resistance or doubt about, I tell myself I can't do it because to do it, I need to sit at my desk and my desk is messy. There's a little loop in there. You see what I'm saying? That I'm creating that gives me an out. It gives me an out. I can't do that thing I don't want to do unless I'm sitting at my desk. I can't sit at my desk because my desk is a mess. I don't feel like cleaning my desk right now. I'm going to smoke weed or walk my dog or take a bubble bath or do something fun. So, one of the keys for this year, time management, removing resistance, the habit is I keep my desk clean. The system is, at the end of every day, when I finish up working at my desk, I take the fucking 5 minutes to put everything the fuck away. I don't want to. I know I need to. The way that I motivate myself to do it is I set a timer. 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes. Here's a 5-minute timer. Put everything away. Leave my desk open so that tomorrow I can sit down. That's the system. Right? So I've talked before when I've done this about like containers inside containers inside containers. Going from big to small. The priority is I get more done. The goals are under there. The action steps are under there. The habit or the key that I need underneath all of that is to like clear the space for myself. So the habit is keeping the space clear. And that's the daily task that I do every day that ensures my success, or at least helps to ensure my success. So for the like, I do my laundry, but I don't put my clothes away thing, I would say first devise a system that sounds attainable for you, right? I walk directly from the laundry room with my laundry basket into my room and I put everything away. Or as I take things out of the dryer, I fold and sort them and I take them straight into my room and I put them away immediately. I never let it linger, right? So you create some system and you try out the system for, I would say 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks to a month, you just try it. If you don't like the system, you modify it. You say, okay, I tried this. It was okay, but I feel like it could be better. And you adjust it. Does that make sense? Always give yourself the review and a potential to adjust with everything. If you lock yourself in and you say, this is the only way it can be done, and if I don't do this, I have failed, and if I fail, fuck it, it's not going to stick. Trial and error is the key. So you set a system, you commit to trying the system wholeheartedly for a short period of time. If you like it, you keep it. And if you don't, you try something new and you just keep throwing shit to the wall to see what sticks. The reason I say to give it a month is if you change it too often, you're not really trying a system, you're just kind of freestyling. Create a system, commit to the system for a manageable period of time, see how it goes. Give yourself permission to modify if you don't like it. I'm going to offer 2 more habits so again, we're talking about habits. So you've identified your priorities. Within your priorities, you've set some goals. Within your goals, you've set some steps. You've attached those steps to when you're going to do them, or at least when you'd like to address them over the course of your year. You've identified some major keys that if you could do those things, or if you could remove those things, it would help you make everything else happen. And you've identified some habits. So how do you identify the habits? So last night when I was doing my review and I was thinking about my major key being time management, that if I get better at time management, it will allow me to make all of my other things happen. I fucking went on Google and I said, how do I improve time management? And I read like 20 articles on how to improve time management. And anything I saw that I liked, I wrote down in a list. And then I decided which of those things I wanted to implement as habits that would help me improve my time management. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try it for a couple months. If they work, cool. If they don't work, I'm going to try some new ones because the priority is to get better at time management. And I'm going to keep tinkering until I've got it. And tinkering is cool, right? Like you always want to approach it as tinkering. I'm just going to try this thing. I'm just going to like constantly be tinkering with my own efficiency and my own productivity. That's not succeed, fail. Succeed, pass, fail is not a way to live your life, right? It doesn't work like that because you have to keep living. So you have to give yourself trial and error. How are we? I see some likes. Okay, cool. So I'm going to give you a couple of the habits that I'm setting for this year that I think are really successful or are going to be really successful for me that I found when I was doing my time management research. And it is to ask yourself, am I just keeping busy? Or is what I'm doing actually moving something forward? I feel like that's going to be a powerful time management skill for me, is to check in with myself and say, is what I'm doing busy work or am I actually making progress? So simple, but just taking a moment to check in and ask myself that, I feel is going to be really radical for me. What about for goals that are bigger than you? Is there a goal that's bigger than you, you infinite creature? What do you mean? Like you need a team? Tell me, what do you mean? I'm not sure. Like smashing the patriarchy. Oh, okay. Right. Political goals. Cool. So I feel like that goes back to like the goal that somebody else was saying before, like when you have a personal goal that's amorphous and large, like become more flexible. That is a really large goal. What you can control is, I would like to be more involved in specific political women's movements, right? I would like to be more involved in dismantling patriarchy. Here are the ways that I would like to do that, right? I'd like to donate to these causes. I'd like to get involved with these groups. I would like to attend one political talk, seminar, or action a month. I would say those goals are about setting the level and intention of your involvement and how you're going to make a steady effort toward that work in your life. Because then what you're getting is the feelings of being actively involved in furthering a political cause that's in line with your spiritual beliefs, right? With what you know to be true as a person is important. Hi, Sandra. That's something I go back to a lot. If ever you're feeling like a goal or a project is too big, you have to break it down to what you can control. And what you can control is the quality of the effort, involvement, and work that you're putting in, and trusting in the outcome. That anytime you put focus and effort toward something, you'll see change. You'll see improvement. You may not know exactly what that is going to be, but what you can control is how much you put in. And having faith that the more you put in, the more you will get out, right? Because that's usually how our universe works. Hi. Hi, Amina. So do those things make sense, you guys? So I'm kind of nearing the end of helpful advice I can give. So we set our priorities. We set the goals beneath the priorities. We set the steps required to meet the goal. Now, sometimes the steps required to meet the goal involve other people. So even within that step, you might need to learn something. You might need to hire a coach. You might need to join a support group. You might need to enlist the help of others. I would write that in there. Priorities, goals, steps, people who can help you, all go in there. Major keys. If I could accomplish this thing, it would unlock the whole shebang and I'd be able to accomplish all this other stuff. If I could remove this thing, it would help me to accomplish all this other stuff. Define habits that would help you with your major keys. I say 12. The reason is you got 12 months this year. One habit at a time for a month. Gives you a lot of time to make stuff stick. One of the mistakes I think we make with resolutions is instead of plotting out at what point in the year we're going to tackle what things, we try to do it all at the beginning of the year. It's too many things, we fall apart. I write out 12 habits that I think will help me. I prioritize where I want them to happen. I go to my monthly calendar and I say, my January habit, I'm going to try this. My February habit, I'm going to add this. My March habit, I'm going to add this. It is so much easier to do one thing at a time. It is so much more manageable. It gives you so much more breathing room. So last year I started habit stacking with my morning, and I love it, and I still do it. And the way that I did it was, I was like, first I'm setting a bedtime and a wake up time. That was habit number 1. Next, I have a morning routine that I run through, that I have tinkered with a few times, but my morning routine basically goes, I get up at 6:20. It's a weird time, but that's my time. Actually, it's 6:26. I'm a weirdo about numbers, but I get up at 6:26. I come out to the kitchen. I set my coffee pot on. I brush my teeth. I put my contacts in. I put on clothes to walk the dog. I pour my coffee. I chug a bunch of water. I take my vitamins. I do all of that right then in the same order every time so that I can't mess it up. I put on a podcast because I like to do like things that are good for my brain first thing in the day. I put on one of my favorite podcasts. I walk my dog for 45 minutes. I'm just in the world. connecting to nature, being in my neighborhood, taking in something that my brain enjoys, being with my animal. That's my first thing. And it's a beautiful thing that having a dog has added to my life, is that I take these walks and I like open my mind first thing in the morning. I really love that. I come home from there. My habit has been I do my gratitude practice right then. I set my 3 main priorities of what I need to do for the day. I always start my day with planning what are the 3 best things I can do to move my projects forward today. I pack up my lunch. And then I go to work. The thing that I'm adding to my morning stack this year is that I want to put my freestyle dance practice in the morning. I'm going to try it out. That's my key January habit that I need to implement, is that I do everything else the same. I walk my dog. Immediately upon coming home, I freestyle 1 song and I meditate for 5 minutes. That's my new thing that I'm going to try in my stack. Because I've started to find that if my day gets crazy, my practice may slip, and it is important to me that I'm progressing my dance practice every day and that I'm taking at least 5 minutes to move to music on my own time every day. The best way I can ensure that that gets done in my life is to do it before I leave the house. So that's my new thing I'm adding to my morning stack. That's my January habit. My February habit is I really would like to end screen time and to read before bed instead of allowing myself to potentially stay up late, which has some negative consequences for my next day. So that I'm going to focus on in February. I'm not even going to stress myself out about it in January until I've seen that I can successfully add freestyling in the morning to my life. Once that's locked in and I feel good about that, I'm ready to add in a new one. So that's February, ending screen time. March, I want to write down my top priorities for the next day before bed. But I'm not going to touch it until March. I'm not touching it. I have too much on my plate already. First, I have to make sure I'm freestyling in the morning. That's going to take me a month to stick to. Once I get that locked in, and right, I might not stick to it. I might have to change the plan. I'm giving myself some wiggle room. Once I've locked that in, then the next month, my short month, I'm focusing on ending screen time, reading and writing only, and coloring before bed. I've already got my book out, right? Because I'm reading and writing before bed. So in March, I add at the end of every day as I'm laying in bed with my book, I'm writing down my 3 priorities for tomorrow. That means tomorrow morning when I review my next 3 priorities, I've already got them written down. I'm just reviewing instead of creating. That's March. I got so much time to have to stress out about that. I don't have to think about it yet. It's in March. A little bit at a time. But by the end of next year, I'll have 12 habits that support my new time management level of efficiency that are helping to facilitate all of my other successes. Does that make sense? One day at a time, man. 1 month at a time. Y'all seen Creed, right? 1 step at a time, 1 punch at a time, 1 round at a time. That's how we take this shit on. No overwhelming the self. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that if you don't do everything in the first month of the year, it's not going to get done, because that's going to make you feel like a shitty failure and then you're going to quit. I can handle 1 new habit a month. I can handle that shit. Just making sure that those habits are the right habits and that the priority that you're setting them in is a priority that works. 1 step at a time, 1 punch at a time, 1 round at a time. You got it? You feel good? His goals are like, get mommy to give me more cookies. How do I do that? Be cute more often. All right, I see some likes, so I think that makes sense. So now, priorities, goals, steps, and identifying people who can help you. Major keys. What can I add? What can I take away that will make this more likely to happen? Habits based on major keys. 1 habit a month. 12 major habits prioritized by order of importance and set into your calendar for 1 new habit a month. We there? Here's the next thing. And this one is my new favorite. I just tried this year. I'm just starting it out. Focus on the first 12 days of the year. Even smaller. The first 12 days of the year are representing 1 day for every month of the year. I can make one. Do I have a cheat sheet? Nope, but I can make one. Okay, so focus on the first 12 days. January 1 represents January. January 2 represents February. January 3 represents March, and so on. The first 12 days of the year, you practice run your first 12 habits. So today, I got up and I did my new morning routine first. Tomorrow, I'm going to turn off my computer at a certain point and switch to books before bed, because that's my February habit. On the 3rd, I'm going to write down my priorities for the next day. So I'm doing a mini version of my monthly goal over the first 12 days of this year. The reason is, on a kind of cosmic level, I'm setting myself up for what I'm going to do. On a personal level, I'm giving myself a little mini trial run so that I have an opportunity to experience how it feels. And if I like it, then when I get to it, I'm excited because I've tried it already and I remember that I like it. If I experience resistance, I get to have a preview of how I might thwart myself and make a plan for when I get to that month. These are the kind of experiences that I had. These are the kind of resistances I felt. This may happen again. I already have a little plan in place for what I'm going to do if that happens when I do it on the month. Does that make sense? Bitch real pleased with herself over here. It's all about bite-sized pieces. It really, really is. It's all about working from the macro to the micro, creating the vision, defining the why, the positive motivation that you have toward making that thing happen, setting the priorities, defining the goals. And Beth, this is why I said you want a piece of paper at the beginning, but I might have something for you. Defining the goals. From there, defining the steps it will take to reach those goals and the people that can help you do it. Setting those things into a timetable for your year that spans the whole year and is not all in January. There are some things that it's okay to not look at till later. From there, you're defining your major keys. From there, you're defining habits that will help you meet those major keys. 1 habit a month, prioritized in order. Try them on the first 12 days of the year. Macro to micro. Small, bite-sized, attainable chunks. Because you have to feel success. You have to feel success. If you don't feel successful, you will quit. The best way to feel successful is to give yourself small milestones that you can reach in a reasonable amount of time and congratulate yourself for. That's not cheating. It's really important that you do that. Because if you make something too big and unwieldy, you don't put it on a timetable, you don't figure out what the metrics for success measurement are, you're going to feel like a failure and you're going to give up. There's just no way around it. You have to make things bite-sized enough with deliverables and deadlines that you can see and feel success as it's happening. You can feel good about it, and that will motivate you to keep going. Hopefully. So two more things. One is check-ins and reviews. I think it's really important at the beginning of the year to define places that you're going to check in and review your progress, because that is where you decide whether or not things are working and if you want to tinker with them or adjust them. I also really like doing your check-ins and reviews with a buddy, right? Having somebody that you know is working as well that you can check in with and say, hey, at the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter wrap-ups, I'm going to check in with you and let you know how I'm doing on my projects, and you can let me know how you're doing on your projects, and we can brainstorm together on ways to make things more efficient, things that might need to be removed. It is not failure if you need to adjust your timeline, right? Because we're out of pass-fail and we're into trial and error, right? Pass-fail is so 2016. We're letting that shit go. That's not coming with us. It's all trial and error. It's all tinkering. So when you do your reviews, you're just saying, is this working? If yes, do I want to keep doing it? Cool. If yes, do I want to add or subtract anything? Cool. If no, do I want to keep doing it? Do I need to change it? How am I going to work it? Or maybe you're like, at the beginning of the year, I set a priority for the second quarter of the year that is no longer a priority to me. I can remove this. That's not failure. That's just, right? We do this in our jobs for other people. It's just doing the same thing for yourself. But, you know, we all hear that. If you set resolutions and never look at them again, they don't work. This is a year-long practice. This is a relationship to moving your own projects forward that's methodical and systematic and makes room for you to live your life in a framework of your own creating, because you're going to pass through these days anyway. You with me? So what I would love to hear right now, just off the top, what do you guys feel like your major keys are? I'm trying to hit the see more button on Nikki's comment. Ugh, it doesn't want me to. Hold on. See more. You're so welcome, Nikki. I am really enjoying doing this kind of work where I get to talk with you guys about this stuff, because this is like this is something I'm really nerdy about that I really love. And so the fact that it's helpful to other people is great. Like, this is why I make the day planners that I make. This is why I do the coaching that I do. Is as a self-employed creative person, there are so many potential pitfalls. And so personal efficiency tweaking is like my favorite thing. So I love that you guys like to talk about it. Organization, order, and limits, major keys. So you're saying organization and order are major keys, and that limits are the major key minus, like internal limits are something you need to remove? Or do you feel like limits are something you need, like placing limits on yourself would help you? Oh, did I accidentally block that? You guys, I accidentally blocked someone and I can't undo it. No. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Ah. How do I undo this? No, shit. Oh, you guys, I feel so terrible. I don't know what to do. No. Oh gosh, I can't fix it. Oh, I feel so bad. That's never happened to me before. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. You guys, I feel so bad. All right. So I accidentally blocked someone. I didn't mean to. I was trying to respond to a comment and I don't know what happened. But I blocked somebody from the chat who I know and I know personally, and so I don't want her to feel like I blocked her on purpose. All right, I'm pausing this for a second to see if I can fix it. I can't fix it. I actually blocked her as a friend. Like, not just from the chat, I blocked her. Ah, that's so frustrating. I'm sorry. What a frustrating way to wrap this up. That sucks. I'm really sorry, you guys. Okay. Well, I hope that that was helpful for you guys. I got really derailed there. That was a really frustrating moment. I will hop into the chat, you guys, after this. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm going to hop into the chat afterwards, and I'm going to write down these steps for you. And please let me know if you implement them and if it was helpful. And if you want to set up a time to talk with me more, I would love to talk with you. Yeah. Love you guys. Happy New Year. I hope that you are able to get everything that you need out of this year. And I have so much faith in you. If I can do it, you can do it. Bye.